The mission today is to sharpen your swords and get you ready for battle. It's time to fine-tune your craft and make you the best in what you do. The mission is to equip you to help anyone purchase what they need. We'll share the best advice from the best in their industry. You'll be listening to a conversation you wish you had with the mentors you wish you had. Take what makes sense to you and makes you better in your career. You guys, Bruce Lee said it best. Absorb what is useful and discard what is not.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Commission Mission. My name is Eric Gerace.
Micah Henderson, and today I have an amazing guest with us, Chris Cramer of Bill Cramer, GM, and every time we've had a conversation, in between before this episode and on the phone, it's immediate. We start going back and forth about how much sales can really do for somebody and how to get better at it. So I just knew Chris was going to be the perfect guest to have on today.
Yeah, we actually had to stop Micah. He was like doing the show before the show because Chris is just like a wealth of information.
I can't help it.
Looking forward to getting this started.
Right away, we get into the whole business of things. But Chris, thanks for coming on today.
You got it. Micah, thanks for having me. Eric, thanks for having me. And we could just roll back some of the stuff. Hopefully they were recording earlier.
They probably were.
Call it a wrap.
Well, there's actually hidden cameras all around here. Good. So, but there was something that I wanted to point out, that you are our first auto sales guest, and there's no pressure, but that whole industry is on your shoulders right now.
Well, why'd you wait so long for the purest of all sales?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I know. Well, I'm picky. I was looking for the right guy. No coincidence that your last name matches the dealership.
It helped me get a job. They were able to overlook a few things.
they moved
your resume doesn't quite match up, but all right.
Yeah, we'll put you to the top of the stack.
Yeah.
So what did you do before car sales? And we're kind of getting into why you decided to go that route, but share with the guests.
It's a family business. Been that way. My grandfather started it. He started out. And I was thinking about this, what question you'd ask me first. And I thought maybe you'd ask me, like, what's your greatest sales story?
Oh, that's at the end.
And is it?
Yeah.
Dadgummit. All right. Well, all right. So family business. I've always watched it from afar. My parents did a good job of allowing us to kind of find our own path. We were under no pressure to go any direction. My sister's an English professor in college. My brother is CFO of the dealership, but he thought about being a psychiatrist, thought about being an architect, actually has a peace, war, and defense, ancient history degree. Mine is political science. For other reasons, it seemed like the best fit to get a degree. But I always watched it from afar and knew that one day I would get into it. Wasn't sure if I'd get into it right off the bat, but one day I would. My mother actually kind of wanted us to go work for somebody else for a while. Thought that'd be a good idea. Circumstances were such that we wanted to come back to Panama City, and we wanted to go to work. My brother was in the business for about a year. We're about a year apart. So I came into the business right after college. But prior to that, I was always interested. I was listening to some people that knew, some other family members, my uncle, my dad, other managers in the dealership, talk about the road to a sale and talk about sales strategies and word tracks, and
kind of like mentors to you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I saw that. I was like, wow, there is a science to this. There is a way you can learn this craft. It's not just gift of gab. Now, it's nice to have some natural instincts with
people
skills. That it's kind of natural, but you can learn the craft, and if you can take those natural abilities and dial it into a science that you can actually learn and go back and say, what did I do wrong there? How can I improve? You can take that average to go above average, and then you take the average income and you go above average income. But so anyway, so I'm learning the craft, and I'm listening to some of those old tapes,
the old guard,
old stuff, Joe Verdi, and some others. I'm listening to that in high school, and I'm going to school, and I'm listening like, wow, this is really interesting. But I didn't come back into that until I went back into the car dealership. But I started in the car business. I had a degree in So did my brother. My dad did as well when he started, and we were $30,000 a year and a salary and a broom if we needed it, back in the shop, and start where started in the shop, started in the service department, moved over to the parts department, then the body shop, and really where I started sales was in our parts department. And I looked at this and go, gosh, everybody in the shop needs tires. Why are folks not buying tires? Everybody needs it. So I walked around and I had my little tire tread depth gauge, and I called these people and I was selling them tires because we weren't even really in that business. Yeah. But I'm selling them tires. And I realized, all right, there's all these accessories coming in. That was about the time that you could really start putting assist steps and toolboxes and all that stuff that I loved.
But the fundamentals, like a tire, was an underserved market. You recognize that, some critical thinking, and that was an untapped market that you were able to capitalize on. And sales was just kind of natural. That I think you do have some of the natural people skills that you fine tuned, but it really does help to be able to naturally be able to carry a conversation and build rapport with somebody. And
the fact that you recognize that there was a science to selling, right? And there's a science to relationships. There's a way to master your craft. It was when so I've always been told I had a terrible singing voice, right? And so, but I really would love to be able to sing. And so I started Googling, hey, if someone has zero voice talent, how do you learn how to sing? Is it possible? I started Googling around those, and I found an instructor that has worked with some of the biggest names in the music industry, and he said people saying that they don't have a voice is like the equivalent of someone that has never touched a guitar getting up on stage and someone wailing on the guitar and everybody and sounding terrible and everybody in the audience saying, "Oh my God, that's the worst guitar I've ever heard." It's not the guitar's fault.
Yeah.
He didn't. It's an instrument, and it's the guy who said that's the worst guitar player because he doesn't know how to play it. But people's voice is an instrument, and you just haven't learned how to use it. And that's a lot of things in relationships and in sales. There's a way to get people to a yes, and you just haven't learned it yet.
And I tell you, when it hit
fine tuning.
Well, first off, go karaoke at the yacht club on Friday nights. You can hear it all come together, and
you're not the worst. But I do want to point out that even though you did kind of have an opportunity that was built by a father, grandfather, that you decided that you were going to be a badass in your own right, and you were going to fine tune your craft, and it paid off.
It's never been my goal to be average.
That's right.
Ever. With anything that I did, whether it was something that I had a clearer path maybe than most. I had some opportunity that others didn't have. I was accelerated along that path quicker than others. But I took that as an even greater opportunity. I said, okay, all right, well, I'm gonna learn this. I'm gonna study this. I'm gonna immerse myself in knowledge, and I'm gonna go be the absolute best that I can possibly be. Grant Cardone saying, dominate, don't compete.
There you go.
And that's what I set out to do, and I set out to do it in everything.
Any other sources of inspiration? I know you mentioned one that in high school that you were listening to. There was some speaker or some author.
The best that I've been around, I'd say post, around college and beyond, intro into it, really getting my feet wet, immersing, Grant Cardone. We've had his training platform. We've done a live Skype call with him, immersed in that knowledge. And
he recently joined our brokerage at EXP.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Well, it's a mindset shift.
We get live trainings and everything from him. It's amazing.
Is what it is. It's more than just learning word tracks and whatnot, and it really helped me tremendously. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Jim Collins, Good to Great, Jim Collins, Built to Last. Those are two different thought processes on business. But, transformational in thought for me and how to operate. But you go back to Grant Cardone and taking massive action, getting attention, getting revenue, what y'all are doing right now. You're getting attention. Revenue follows attention. Get you some haters. All right, it's part of the process.
Got plenty of those.
I
started with those. I don't know if that's the right order in the process, but
you got some attention to get them. And then you get ridiculed from those haters.
Oh, yeah.
And then you keep doing it, and then you have success and you have admiration. It's a natural process, much like the road to a sale. And if you recognize that the haters are just a part of the process, and if you don't have them, you're not getting enough attention, it all makes sense. Then you can just keep plugging. It's the the folks that don't buy. All right, well, that's part of it. All right, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So you just keep going. You keep your head down and keep rolling.
And if you have enough activity, even that you said maybe 1 out of 10 buy, but so 10%, but 10% of a large number is still enough to get a good career going and get a good
If everybody bought, there would be no value in a salesman.
That takes it back. That takes it back to the science.
Yeah.
And I mentioned this. I don't know where in this interview we may get to it, but the 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
The 20 is probably closer to the number, somewhere 15 to 20 in a closing ratio. But so that means 80 are going to say no. But that number. Okay, great. All right, if I want to sell X amount of widgets, how many people do I need to talk to sell X amount? You can back into that number.
Right, that equation. But also the 80-20 rule, how I always, think about it as well is, you were talking about taking good to great, that there are 80% of just average salesmen, but then there are 20% of great salesmen that have done the hard work and that have learned how to be to fine-tune their craft to be excellent.
There's a reason 20% of the wealth or 80% of the wealth is concentrated in 20% of the population. And 20% of the constants control 80% of the outcomes. That you recognize a lot of that 80-20 in everything that you do. It just comes and hits you right in the face.
Yep.
Wow, this is so. It's also in finance and in financial planning and investment, kind of understanding the herd.
Yep.
What's the 80% thinking, and how do I A, get in front of that, or B, understand what movements are going on. I mean, you look at where we are right now with inflation, with the price of everything being higher, the power of the dollar being weaker the next day than it is today. What really is going on? Step back from that, and it may not be. And we see it. We see knee-jerk reactions.
Yeah.
That's not a long-term strategy. But understand what's going. Is this a long-term effect? A fuel spike during a war in an oil-producing region, is that a long-term problem? Do we have a supply problem? Do we have a production problem? We don't have a supply problem.
We don't have a demand problem.
We damn sure don't have a demand problem. But so we don't have a supply problem. We have shale fracturing technology, and we're sitting on one of the largest oil reserves in the United States, continental United States. We don't even know that there's an end to it.
Yeah.
It's a matter of getting it out of the ground and getting it to the pump. But you can step back from that and thinking about things more 30,000-foot view.
Highland Finance, helping you prepare for life. IRS takes your money, stock market risks your money, and inflation reduces the buying power. At Highland Finance, we believe you should feel confident in your future. Our proven track record helps our clients prepare for life. Call 850-359-5989. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the industry specifically, right?
Man, because we could go off in a million different ways.
I know.
If you let me.
Yeah.
And then we'll look up.
I want to hear the greatest sales story. That's what I want to hear. What's your greatest sales story?
We're definitely going to do that, but we have a lot of auto sales viewers that are wanting to know a couple things.
All right.
So there's a lot of similarities, but there's a lot of differences when it comes to the auto industry and any other sales, right? The Cramer dealership is big in the community. Everybody knows it. They know if there's only a very few places if you want to go to get a reliable vehicle. And because of that, would you say advertising and marketing aren't as important in auto sales than in others?
No, I'd say it's as important. You can't just rest on your laurels. If that was the case, we just would stop advertising completely. It goes back to getting attention. And you take the dynamic of the business that we're in now and inheriting an established business. And I don't mean inheriting from a financial sense. I mean, all right, now we're overseeing it. My brother and I, we're overseeing the operations of the business. So what do we do? Are we starting a business? There's a different dynamic. You're building a community. You're taking a vision, an idea, and now you're setting up the structure, and you're you're building a community around it, and then you're going to ask them to take action. Well, now we've got a business. We've got a great name. We've got a great reputation. We've got a great product. We've got a great team. What action do you need to take now? And it goes to Jim Collins' built to last, and it's preserving the core while stimulating progress. So you continue to promote that you're the tradition you can trust, like we have for so many years. But then you recognize what the marketplace wants today. They want it to be easy. They want it to be safe, and they want you to take great care of them. So that's what we do. Yeah, and we advertise that.
Great message.
We come to the dealership, and we execute on that.
Yeah.
We want simple pricing. We want transparency. You want everything online? We're going to give you everything online. You want to talk to us online? We'll talk to you online. You want to talk to us in person? We'll talk to you in person.
Meet them where they want to be met.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the importance of marketing in the auto industry is just all you have to do is look at motorsports. You win on Sunday, they buy on Monday.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. That's been the old saying in the car business for a long time.
And that's why NASCAR and F1 and GP and all those put so much money in advertising and sponsorships, because that being in front of those people, because there's so many choices out there. When you're the name in front of that person constantly and being in front of them and reminding them of your tradition and your staying power and getting in front of those eyes, that's what.
There's another mentor. I'd consider him really a maven in marketing, Seth Godin, and somebody Alan Branch turned me on to. And he actually dove into a car dealership. You know, what is a car dealership? And what is a retail establishment? And he used a car dealership at an Apple store for comparison's sake. But we are, simply put, a trusted source to buy your product and service your product. And let's dial it down, and all the extraneous stuff and all the little $1,500 programs that you can buy to do this for this and that for that. We need to be a trusted place for people to buy our product and service the product. Yeah. If you can do that and you can get that message across, people will come to you.
So messaging is just as important as anything. A second ago, you mentioned how that salesman sitting on the lot waiting for someone to drive up, even though they're working for the dealership, they are their own business.
Absolutely.
And they're not necessarily doing the advertising, the businesses, but they're still their own business. Well, one way I imagine the car dealership industry being different is, you're waiting for somebody to drive up, get out, start walking around. We
call that the up bus.
Yeah.
Waiting on the up bus to show up.
So the up bus shows up, and somebody walks up to help them. Hey, can I help you around? There is I don't want to say negative, but let's say negative. There can be a negative interpretation of that person approaching you.
Back in the day, the cigarette went down.
Yeah,
and put that out. What can I do for you?
And how?
Straighten out your email.
Let me add something to that. How? Because I know now,
basically,
with the invention of this thing called a computer, there's a lot of online research, car sales, competition.
They're coming in for a scheduled time.
So how does that?
A vehicle they've already picked out.
Is that how that's? So that's trying to change your model a little bit now.
What it's done is it shrinks the number of dealers people visit in person. You know, It used to be, I think 10 years ago, they'd come to 3. Well, now it's less than 2. So people have really made their decision before they come to the dealership, and it's just a matter of can I trust you to get the deal done? Gosh, how many times you looked online for something and you wondered, do they even have that? Is it just a stock picture of something? Yep. Probably is a stock picture of something, but do they even have that? I mean, it's just as simple as that. You know, do you have clear pictures of your product, clear presentation of your product, where people know that it's there, that they can actually buy that? Well, yeah, okay, I see it, but did that sell a week ago?
So you did have to pivot to really putting a lot of focus online,
I remember, and this was probably in the last 12 years, that sitting in a conversation, 12 years is not that long.
All right.
What are we going to do about this internet thing? You know, emails? People want to buy a car over. We're really sitting there having this conversation.
You got to get ahead of it.
It's just another way people want to communicate.
Right.
And the online showroom is just another showroom. You can't think of it beyond that, but you have to understand it and simplify it and understand that people want to communicate different. They want to text. They want to email. They don't want to be bothered. They don't want the pleasantries. How's your mom or them and all that stuff. You know, let's get to the point.
Yeah.
Do you have it? Not? Okay, can I
But
buy
part of
it?
the reason I bring this up is because a company is as big and as established as Bill Cramer GM, you had to make a pivot. And you had to meet your clients where they were.
Absolutely.
And that's what happens with a lot of new and struggling entrepreneurs is they're trying to get their clients to come meet them where they are. And it's.
I came to you guys here, by the way.
Yeah.
But you dangled it out there. It's going to be fun.
Listen, you could have been in your car. I still would have got you on Zoom. Okay, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
But no, absolutely. So one difference when you're that salesman, sitting down there waiting for the up buses. A lot of times there's somebody coming to your lot, and that they're there for a reason. They're not there because
buy bananas. They're not.
They're not there looking for bananas. They're there looking for a car. And then also that negative view of that person approaching you of oh man, this guy's trying to sell me something, and you're combating that by one, maybe setting those appointments online, so it's not it's expected that person that you set the appointment with is going to greet you at the door and answer all your questions. Is there any other way that you guys are you're taking
the curse off that is basically what you're doing. When people traditionally go to the dealership and their guard's up and somebody's going to sell me something, I'm not going to be sold.
How do you take that guard now?
Somebody comes up to you, and how many times you go into Dillard's or where they can I help you? Can I help you? And they be nice. Maybe say it nice. But you tell them, no, I don't need any help.
Yeah.
Well, one key thing that I've keyed in on personally, and I'm try to disseminate that, is that everybody wants to be taken care of. So you approach somebody, how can we take care of you? But then you go into problem solving. And if you establish common ground, if you don't do that, you'll never get down the road to a sale.
To that rapport,
but you have
that
to
trust.
build rapport. You have to interview. You have to listen. There is a problem. Everybody's trying to solve a problem. And when you can get to that point where you can solve that problem for a customer, you can earn their business.
Yeah.
And it may not be that day. But if you know in your heart of heart that the product you've got is going to solve that problem, then you can apply the right pressure to get that customer to say yes and take care of that problem.
And you say pressure, but pressure in a good way. You can say convincing or manipulation, but really you're trying to help somebody solve a need that they've already established. They already know they need a car, or you would not have had that first interaction.
Well, it's kind of like what you do in the insurance industry and financial planning when you show them what your future is like with this coverage and with this plan in place and what it's like without it.
It is important.
So that's the kind of pressure I think that he was referring to is that you can –
life insurance sales and insurance sales may be up there with car sales,
right?
As
Negative,
far as initial
negative view
gut
of it.
connotation.
Absolutely.
But you need life insurance, and you need a car.
And you
You just haven't historically enjoyed the process of doing it. And like going to the dentist, you got to get your teeth fixed.
And tell our copier salesmen and saleswomen out there, I'm sure they're up there in the three because I know I did that for a little while.
when you get that
until you've been kicked out of buildings and locked in stairwells and all that.
But if you called me and said, hey Chris, this is Mike, I'm calling you about some life insurance. I got a special promo for you, and if you go ahead and buy it today, I'll give you this discount. I'm like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Why do I want this? But you say, Chris, hey, look, I've been watching you. I really admire what you're doing, and I see that you're growing, and I wanted to just talk it out with you and see if there's anything that I could do to help or I could do to take care of you. And then you listen to me, and I say, you know what? I got this business. I've assumed this debt. I've done this. I've done that. And I say, well, tell me about your plan behind that. And I don't have one. Oh, well, okay. Here's what you ought to consider, and here's what I can do. Yeah. Now you've got a relationship.
That's a good approach, and that's how you build a relationship, and that's how you build trust and rapport.
And it's genuine.
Right.
You're not selling snake oil.
No, I mean,
you believe in your product.
If you want to be not average, if you want to be great, and then also if you believe in your product, and also if you really genuinely want to help people, sales is not really hard. It's just activity, getting enough activity to fill enough of that funnel.
Boils down to confidence.
Oh,
and the confidence in yourself is built from those things, having confidence that what you're doing is right.
Right.
If you're like, well, all right, I'm going to come on this show and I'm going to talk to these guys about this stuff. What's this commission mission business all about? I don't have any, what if you didn't know? What if I didn't know you guys? What if a trusted friend of mine hadn't already been on this show? Like, I don't know, maybe I will, maybe I won't.
Yep.
But then your confidence in what you're doing emits. But if you don't have, that was a hard thing for me to establish with at first, just pure lack of knowledge of what I was doing and confidence in what I was doing. But over time, you build that, and then that comes across not as cocky, but as confident. This guy can take care of me, and there's an issue, he can take care of me.
I also want to point out the value of a referral. That it's hard to think of it when it comes to a show and when it comes to guests, but you are a referral from a previous guest, Alan, and that was what I like to call borrowed trust. Until I had an opportunity to, tell you what it's about, what we're trying to do, what we're trying to accomplish, and that I'm real and that I'm genuine, and then the trust becomes more between us, not borrowed from the referral source. So. Huge. There is a lot of stuff that I want to go over. I mean, in between follow-ups, in between referrals, and that, when it comes to referrals, because people don't buy cars every day, is referrals as strong? I mean, people do typically have 200 or 300 people in their sphere of influence, technically. But what I really wanted to talk to you about before we heard any good sales stories throughout the years is being in the industry for as long as you've helped new salesmen come up, start from absolute scratch to becoming successful. And what are some of the big hurdles that you have to address with them in their mind? Maybe a mindset, maybe adjusting their perspective, or how do you get somebody from completely raw, completely green to killing it?
Well, some of those hurdles are different for everybody. For me, it was, asking for the business and not asking the questions, asking at the right time. It was, when it was, just continually asking, it was, all right, follow me. That was that was a momentous occasion for me when I kind of really absorbed what that meant. And it wasn't that you were taking control, but it was that you had confidence in what you were doing, and you're telling somebody, follow me. You're not asking them, hey, I need you to consider this, sign this. You're just, at that point, it's a formality. Yeah. It's follow me. For others, it's the money side of it. It's, the bottom line could be $100,000. It could be $1,000. The signature's the same. But getting over that hump of, that's a big number. I can think of somebody that we've got in our dealership now that was a big hurdle for them, and now they're very influential and a very pivotal part of our entire operation. And they came from the very back,
and they had that aha
epiphany. But boom, and that, yeah, absolutely. And I'm right there with them, and I'm watching it. And I'm trying to coach, and that's continues to be one of the funnest parts about the business is coaching and training and taking that knowledge that you've learned and sharing it. And that in everything that I do, that's probably the best thing, the most rewarding thing that I've got is exploration, adventure, gaining some knowledge, and then sharing it.
Yeah.
Look what I found.
I wanted to share a big hurdle that I went through in the first couple of years is working with successful people, working with very knowledgeable people. Maybe you're a lawyer, maybe you're a doctor. And me thinking, how can I tell these guys anything? Right? I mean,
they'll let you know pretty quick.
They got a PhD. they're doing open heart surgery over here, and I'm going to tell them. Well, and what made me get that aha moment is, you could be a master of something, but you're not going to be a master of everything, and that's why you have a good team that you trust, and that's why you have that accountant. So you don't have to know everything there is about accounting, and that's why they had me, because I knew everything about what I do. And that's why they can follow me.
Well, even Socrates said a wise man does not meddle in the business of others. Do your thing.
You come across as disingenuous. You come across as disingenuous when you try to make stuff up.
Yeah.
People pick that up, and then you've lost all that credibility. Yeah. It's better to say you don't know, and I'll get the answer.
Right.
Than to try to make something up. And I'll respect you if you say, hey, look, I'll find out. I know where to get that information, but I don't really know.
And you maintain the trust. Well, so when I asked Alan, hey, who do you think? number one was you, and there wasn't much hesitation. And he said, you know, how
Who do you think would run across the football field? Yeah, me. That's me.
but he also said, you know, that you had a couple great stories to tell. Being in the sales industry, the auto industry, what comes to mind when?
Oh
when
my
that gets
gosh!
said?
And that's the question I've been thinking about so much. And the biggest one, I don't know how much time I've got. The biggest one is the story of my grandfather. And you know, I've got lots of little stories of things that happened in the car dealership, and they're just unbelievable. You can't. The truth is stranger than fiction. But the story of my grandfather, my mother's dad, the late Tommy Thomas, who the dealership was
Before.
that was his, was obviously his name. We changed that in 2009 when we brought on Cadillac and Buick and GMC. But he started. He was born in upstate New York. He's a big 6'5" Yankee. But it was a single parent home. Didn't know his father. Lied on his application. Maybe fibbed a little bit to join the Marine Corps in World War II. At 17 years old, ended up in the Pacific as a tail gunner. They got shot down. Wow. He ended up Purple Heart and several other awards from that. But moved to Birmingham, Alabama. Married my grandmother, who was also a Marine. And became a debt collector downtown Birmingham. There he is, some big 6'5" Yankee. Now he's a debt collector in downtown Birmingham, Alabama. Exactly. Hey. But what did he have to sell at that point? He had nothing to lose. He'd been through one of the greatest wars of all time, fighting for a way of life and the way people felt back then. He sold himself. And he got into cars, and he got into selling cars. Then he moved into management quickly. He had his first dealership in his early 20s. That dealership went bust. Did that stop him? No. He went out, did it again. He took those meetings. He gained that circle of influence and the trust from people around him. He did things that made him uncomfortable, I'm sure. I mean, coming doing this podcast, you know, I have other things I could do. Maybe reason to say lunches. People you don't know, asking questions with of things you don't know, and not being afraid to think you look like an idiot, because you don't. If you ask, the idiot doesn't ask the question, so you ask the question. And he did all of that probably without any kind of formal training on how to do it, but watching others. But so he grows himself, and he gets another opportunity. And back then, the manufacturer would back you.
Yep.
So he's backed by the manufacturer, gets another shot at a dealership, rolls with it. He said, "I tell you what, though." And I'm a little anecdotal here, but I'll take this one on. It's underperforming. But the next big one, I want a shot at it. Okay, so fast forward a few years, the store in Panama City is available. So he moves. My mom, my other aunts, uncle, they were already grown up and moved out of the house. But my mom, they moved here in 65. And he was my age right now when he moved. And then he had a lifetime ahead of him. And it's hard to think that sometimes. Yeah. You guys, us producers back here, that feel like you've done everything. What more, or you're at you're at a blocking point. When you put it in perspective,
you got a whole lifetime.
My grandfather moved to Panama City at my age, and that was really the beginning of an explosion in his opportunities. But it went from, and he was the kind of guy that would take risks with it. It'd be amazing to even consider. He had multiple dealerships over his life, probably a dozen in multiple states, but one would have failed, and 6 months later he's buying another one. Or, he's trying to scrap the money together to pay the hard money on one, and figures it out, and then goes and buys another one.
When somebody would be like, "Slow down,
exactly,
focus on the one."
He knew what he was doing.
Yeah,
and he had that mentality. And again, he owned a dozen. He'd like to go and buy a dealership, and somebody who was in the store that was doing a good job, or somebody from Panama City that was doing a good job, he'd put him in that store, and then he'd eventually let them buy him out.
Well,
so the dealers.
One of our previous guests shared with us the symbol for international success. And it kind of looks like a rounded W with a line underneath it. I don't have a pen and paper to show you, but that's your ass on the line.
Yeah.
That's the international symbol for success. Put your ass on the line, and you got to make it happen.
Well, he went from that young kid in upstate New York, without 2 nickels to rub together, to a very successul business owner.
Made it happen.
And he ran Ronald Reagan's campaign in the state of Florida. He was real close with him. They were personal friends. And you can, but he would also do that and then come back and loan somebody money to buy a car from him that couldn't do it themselves, and sit there and have that. He could be across the table from a president or across the table from a newly hired police officer. And believe it or not, I still hear those stories today. Wow. Somebody comes in and they said, your grandfather loaned me the money to buy my first car, or your granddaddy signed on the loan with me.
He co-signed.
He guaranteed the loan with GMAC. Now, granted, these are 2-year loans back then, maybe 3 years.
But still,
and he'd sit across the table from him, and he knew that story. He empathized. He understood it. Now, granted, they didn't all work out, but some people went on to be wildly successful. But he would sit there across the table from him and take their pulse and temperature and understand what they were all about, and then give them a shot.
Man.
Awesome. Well, unfortunately, it looks like our time is about up for today.
It's been up. For
I just noticed the zero. So.
And if there's anything that we didn't go over that you think really helped you, or really helped, or you use to really help anybody up and coming, and any one of those, you mentioned Grant Cardone and others, or
commit first and then figure it out.
Boom.
Yep, and that's when I started. I had a thought about that earlier today. Was like, when you're starting a new business, just practice saying yes, even if you're not confident or not 100%. Practice saying yes, because the more you do things that you're uncomfortable with, the more comfortable you become doing them.
Figure it out. That's right. And anything you'd like to plug? Of course, the business. I mean, whatever. Nonprofits, churches, a project.
Sure. Obviously, we talked about Bill Cramer GM. We're actually also venturing out into marine and outdoor through Cramer Marine and Outdoor.
Oh, nice.
We've got a market that we're going to start here, hopefully break ground this summer in our neighborhood, the Cove Market. Downtown Panama City. Alan and I and Kevin Wattenberger. I plugged somebody, and I mentioned him that you ought to interview him, but Kevin Wattenberger, that guy, he's unbelievable. He is one of the hardest working. He's a workhorse, where there's a lot of show horse, but he is a absolute workhorse.
When we opened up our surf shop here, he was the agent that helped us find our location. So I've known Kevin for years, and it's amazing.
And how would they get a hold of you to inquire more about that?
Hey, email me at c.c.kramer@gmail.com. Give you my cell. It's on the website as well. It's 850-832-9428.
You call that his pocket rings. Everybody.
It's been the same since high school.
There's one number, and that's it. Now you got it. Everybody, thanks for viewing today. Don't miss any episode. Make sure you like, subscribe, whatever that action is for whatever platform you're watching this. But we're going to see you guys next time. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Commission Mission. It is our mission to increase your commission. If you got any gold nuggets out of the episode today, make sure you don't miss any more. Click, like, subscribe, whatever that action is for the platform that you're watching this on. Make sure you don't miss any more good nuggets, and help us help you.
Yeah, one of the things that new or struggling entrepreneurs struggle with is asking for the sale, asking for what you need, and they're afraid of rejection. But I'll give you a sample of that exactly right now. Is if this helped you in any way, please share this with 3 friends of yours, 3 people that you think would benefit from what was discussed on these podcasts. And
friends in sales, anyone in your organization that can benefit from this needs to hear it. Thanks, everybody. Highland Finance, helping you prepare for life. The profit your business brings in should go to you, not accidents, injuries, and hurricanes. Do a policy review on your general liability and workers' comp today. Our proven track record helps our clients prepare for life. Call 850-359-5989. Highland Finance.